I'd like to speak also about the movement that I'm perhaps a representative. It's a movement that I'm not sure has a real name, but it does have a real goal. And that is the establishment of a homeland for white people. That is to say, a homeland where we are the recognized and permanent majority, and a land that will represent our heritage, our aspirations, our history, and our hopes, and where our children and our children's children can live forever, free from the unwanted embrace of others. Now, at one time, we in North America almost had a homeland. It was called the United States of America. And of course, there is still a nation of that name, but it's not our homeland. It's a country that in 1960 was 90% white, with almost all the rest blacks, descendants of slaves. Whites are now predicted to be a minority by the year 2040. We're only maybe 62 or 3% of the population now, a minority by 2040. And by the year 2060, we are predicted not merely to be a 30% minority, but the country is expected to be majority Hispanic. Now, the vast majority of that future majority of Hispanics are Mexicans. So imagine that. In 100 years' time, that is to say from 1960 to 2060, just a blink of an eye in historic terms, the United States will have gone from being essentially a European country to one dominated by Mexicans. So what that means is that our government is essentially allowing Mexico to invade and conquer the United States. By any standard, such a government is a government of traitors. Whether consciously or not, the American government is now the worst enemy that our people of European origin have ever faced in North America. So this raises a rather disconcerting question. How many Americans really believe this guff, and how many just remain silent because they're afraid? Either way, it's a sorry commentary on the country that we used to describe as the land of the free and the home of the brave. But what it means is Americans are either fools or cowards. We really do live in astonishing times when you step back and think about it. In certain crucial areas, really the rules of logic, in effect the law of gravity, has been suspended. When it comes to race, or genetics, or sex differences, or the identity of whites, 2 plus 2 is required practically by law to equal 5. However, we're in a time also when, should a child point out that the emperor is running around naked, that's not the spark that sets fire to return to humanity, to return to sanity, if I make a badly mixed metaphor here. No, that child is soundly spanked and sent to re-education camp. So what do we do about it? Well, that's obviously a difficult question, but first of all, in the United States, more and more of us are having to make a kind of serious and fundamental mental readjustment. We have to recognize that the United States simply isn't our country, that the United States government isn't our government. And for someone like me, whose ancestors go back on both sides of my family to colonial times, this is a painful kind of readjustment, but it's not my country, and it's not my government. A lot of our rulers look like us, but they might as well be Martians. I mean, either they believe that 2 plus 2 is 5, or they're certainly afraid to say that it's 4, and they will hound you and persecute you if you dare say that 2 plus 2 are 4. And 20 years of trying has led me to the sad conclusion that normal tools of politics, media, and public persuasion just haven't worked for us. We tell ourselves that ideas have consequences, but in the public arena, these ideas have fewer and fewer consequences. We tell ourselves that the truth will eventually win, but at least in public debates in the United States, truth isn't even one of the contestants. It's really a contest between a greater and lesser lie. Of course, we all will continue to speak and write, and I think at the public level, more and more Americans, and I suspect more and more Britons, will hear what we say and read what we write, and they too will realize that we live in an age of lies. However, it's difficult for me to imagine a political movement at the federal level in the United States that could actually bring about change to reestablish the United States as a European nation and to recognize genuine freedom of association. Take Mitt Romney. I mean, he would do neither of those things. It's impossible for me to imagine his saying that America should continue to be a European country and that whites have the right to prefer to associate with other whites. Not only is he incapable of getting 2 when he adds 2 plus 2, 4 when he adds 2 plus 2, he can't even get himself elected, despite the fact of having 60% of the white vote. We were outvoted on that score by the minorities, so we have the candidate that the minorities wanted, rather than the one that the majority of whites wanted. Now, I said that at the outset that we want a homeland. Well, I think the United States will certainly not be our homeland. We have to start thinking almost in terms of hometowns. It's going to be a smaller matter. We don't have a state that we can call our own. We don't have a county. We don't even have a school board we can call our own. But I think those things could happen if enough people moved to a place, worked hard enough, and that could become a model for the same kind of thing in other counties and other states. I think that in the United States, realistically, we have to think small rather than think large. So we might end up with a hometown, even if we can't have a homeland. Now, is that an easy thing to do? No, it's not easy. And is success even guaranteed? No, it's not guaranteed. It's entirely possible that our kind of North America will simply fade away. But sometimes we have to act no matter what the odds are. Some things are too important for us to stop and calculate our chances. Survival is the first law, and the survival of our race and civilization is vastly more important than the survival or prosperity of any of us individually. Now, I'm fortunate in having photographs of quite a few of my ancestors. I have a number of great-great-grandparents on my wall. And I look at those pictures and they fill me with a sense of obligation. I feel obligated to them to try to preserve in the United States the kind of society that they took for granted, certain fundamental views about what America should be like. And I have 2 children. I have a feeling, I have a deep sense of duty to them. And so it's my obligation to my ancestors and my duty to my children to try as best I can to build a society, even if it's a small one, in which our traditions and our sense of peoplehood can continue. Thank you very much.